Before starting the teaching process, the following safety checks should be made. The high jump bag should be made of soft foam with a covering that ensures that there are no holes or rips that will cause any problems. The bag should be deep enough to ensure the safety of all athletes, particularly as they are likely to be landing on their backs. The bags need to be wide and long enough to ensure that athletes do not land or roll off the edges. The run-up should be clear of obstacles and swept for maximum safety. The uprights should be stable enough that they will not collapse in on each other. The bar should be cylindrical, not triangular, as this reduces the chances of injury to the athlete. Athletes should be informed that playing on the bags or running across the run-up is unacceptable. Ensure that the bags are clear of athletes before allowing the next athlete to have their attempt or trial. For training purposes, a soft bar, known as a flexi bar, may be used in place of a rigid high jump bar. For the high jump to be performed successfully, the most important part is the run-up. The run-up requires the athlete to maintain a good rhythm, building to what will be an optimal speed prior to takeoff, and placing the body in alignment to create the ultimate takeoff position. The run-up also needs to ensure the correct placement of the takeoff foot for the correct flight path. The highest part of the jump needs to be across the middle of the bar to ensure that the bar is not knocked off during takeoff or when the athlete comes down to land. The first teaching process is to determine from which foot the athlete takes off. This can be determined in a number of ways. Most athletes will take off from the support foot used when they kick a ball. Another method of determining this is to ask the athletes to take a short run-up and jump or hop onto the bags from one foot, using no set distance. The foot they take off from will be their takeoff foot. The final way is to stand behind the athlete and push them in the back or simply ask them to fall forward. The foot the athlete braces with is usually the strongest and will become the takeoff leg. For large groups, simply asking all athletes to hop on the spot will usually determine the stronger takeoff leg. Once this has been determined, it will also determine the side from which the athlete approaches the bar.
So for the Fosbury flop, an athlete taking off on their left foot must take off from this side of the pit. If they take off from their right foot, they take off from the opposite side, because the flop needs the takeoff from the outside foot.
Young jumpers should begin with a 3-stride run-up, progressing to longer run-ups only as their skill and competency increases. As a guide, when the athlete is able to create the right takeoff position while being in control of their speed, then it is time to move to a longer run-up. Elite athletes use run-ups in the region of 11 to 13 strides. There are a number of ways to determine the run-up, but simplicity and consistency are of key importance.
One of the easiest ways to develop a 3-step run-up is to stand with your back to the upright and take 3 normal walking paces directly out from the upright, turn at right angles and take 2 steps out, place a mark down, and that should be an approximate 3-step run-up. So the student now faces the bar, puts their jumping foot behind them, and that should now be 1, 2, 3 steps and an easy jump onto the pit. One of the easiest ways to measure a run-up is to start with the 3-step, then they face directly out from the bar, turn slightly, about 10 or 15 degrees, and now do a 4-step walking pace. 1, 2, 3, 4, stop, put the tape down, and that's a 5-step run-up. From here the athlete stands on the tape, puts their jumping leg behind them, and they should just take a 5-step easy run-up and take off onto the landing area. It's important that the athlete also make sure that their 5-step has a curve shape. So you can see from behind here that the athlete runs a proper curve which helps them lean away from the bar, which will help their takeoff.
The takeoff in the high jump is where the horizontal velocity should be converted into vertical lift, requiring very specific body posture and movements. When Whether using the scissors or a Fosbury flop, it is very common to see young athletes making fundamental mistakes at takeoff.
One of the common errors that beginners make is that they actually try and hurdle the bar and not jump and take off into the air. If they lean forward, they'll lose all their vertical lift. So it's important you encourage them to keep their chest up and a quick last stride and hold the long thin shape at takeoff, which is something they have to try to do in the course of a class.
One of the problems for young athletes is the speed at which the takeoff occurs, making it difficult for them to execute the correct skill or to make changes on instruction. If an athlete is continually falling into the bar or making other takeoff errors, the coach may need to use some simple posture drills to help the athlete get a feel for what is required before making further attempts.
You would have seen Sage fall into the bar or dive into the bar. What we can try and encourage is get the athlete to stand near their takeoff so they can put their foot in their approximate takeoff position and then pretend they're going nice and tall with their knee and chest and just pop off the spot, and that's the feeling they have to try and get.
Although the run-up and takeoff may be considered separate skills, they must be developed in concert. The rhythm and correct acceleration of the run-up will strongly influence the success of the takeoff.
A few things I do focus on is making sure the athlete accelerates to the bar, so it's an accelerating rhythm, a quick last stride, and really focus on that tall takeoff position where they punch the knee through, that's their free knee, not their takeoff leg, drive it up to the bar, hold it for as long as they can, and then hopefully do a good bar clearance. But they're the basics of most of your jumping events. Good running technique, good takeoff posture, good free knee drive.
As outlined, most time should be spent on developing run-up and take-off skills. The flight through the air will be largely determined by the take-off itself. However, the flight phase will require the development of bar clearance skills, which do impact on jumping performance. Simple drills such as the back-over drill can be used to teach the basic flight position, the important arching of the back, and the flicking upward of the lower legs as they clear the bar. The development of flexibility, particularly in the hips and torso, will also impact upon the ability to arch over the bar to maximise jumping height. If an athlete has limited flexibility, they may need to undertake some extra training in this area. The landing position should be produced by the correct takeoff and flight skills, and will not require a great deal of attention. However, from the point of view of safety, the coach or teacher must ensure that the athlete is landing consistently on the mat, not too close to the edges. Also, the athlete must learn to land on their back and shoulders and not their neck.